All right, so for this video, as you probably can tell by the title, is my prediction of a number of elections coming up this fall. Today is, of course, January 10th, 2024. There's a lot of time before these elections happen, and a lot of things could change. People could drop out, people could drop dead, and it would change a lot. So, yeah, I'm gonna try to do this every couple months. Especially, I probably won't do it again until after the uh, primary elections. There's a lot coming up over the next month or two. By end of March, I think a good portion of them will be done. We'll know for sure who a lot of the nominees will be for national elections, but also state and local elections. I'm actually not going to talk about any local elections. It'll just be state and beyond. Um, Yeah, I got a couple of governor elections, gubernatorial elections I want to look at, a couple Senate elections, and I think, well, more than a couple. There's a lot. Anyways, yeah, for all these predictions that I'm going to make, they're going to be based off of who I assume the uh, nominees will be, and that is something that it's easier to say who would win between two candidates as opposed to who's going to win a primary election because that's you know it's one of those things where like it could be razor thin, could be not at all. People could drop out, people could have scandals. There's always, every year there's somebody who something happens and something from their past gets brought up and they get sacked basically and drop out. And that very well could happen to any one of these cases. But anyways, we'll start from the top down. Starting with, of course, the presidential election, which is according to this Wikipedia site, November 5th, 2024. I'm going to guess that's on a Tuesday, but I guess we'll wait and see. Anyways, I think this is one of those, elections where I think everyone's given their 2 cents on it and it's kind of overdone. Who is it going to be, Trump or Biden? It's a 2020 repeat. And I think, it's one of those things where I could, if I had to guess right in this moment, I would say that Joe Biden having the power of incumbency and having at least electorally the last couple of years have been very positive for him. It's hard to see him losing despite terrible polling and a general lack of any satisfaction or enthusiasm for him or his candidacy. I think we're just in a particular political time where it's actually less like for him winning, it's less about the person and more about the either the ideals or the ideals of the opposite candidate, so the opposing candidate. So it's the other person and the party that they stand for and the party and all their principles and such is counter to what I think a lot of people that vote at least tend to believe. And so I think for that reason, you'll see things go very well for Joe Biden, especially when you factor in you know, this is an election where you have abortion issues being important for a lot of people. We have, um, well, the Supreme Court and future court appointees being an important factor. You have, uh, I just had it, and I lost it. January 6th. This is the first election where we can kind of say, hey, that's probably something we don't want to potentially deal with again, or whatever. Might still have to deal with it at some point, anyways. But uh, for a lot of people, it's probably better for them not to, elect in the person that kind of let that fester and helps fan those flames. Anyways, yeah, this election, this is one. It's hard to say. In 2020, at the beginning of the year, January 2020, I thought I thought Trump had the election in the bag. I thought he, despite being, Trump and all that that means, I thought that he would be able to win re-election. The economy was doing okay. Everything was, there wasn't, it was, you know, aside from what he represented and what his part of his movement symbolized, it seemed like he had enough of people's good graces to win re-election. And then COVID happened, George Floyd protests happened, and he handled it all horribly. And I think that helped Biden quite a bit for a number of reasons. I mean, for one, they really didn't, there weren't a lot of conversations between them. I think there was maybe one or two debates, if that. Uh, and yeah, so yeah, it was just it was a very that year, in some ways, I think helped out Biden quite a bit. I could be wrong on that. Maybe Trump was always going to lose that election, um, but you know, I guess comment below if you think that that was basically predetermined in some way. Um, Anyways, moving on. I guess we're on to Senate elections. So Arizona's a weird one. Um, Incumbent Kristen Sinema is an independent now. She caucuses with the Democrats, used to be a Democrat, and now she's an independent. And it's very she interesting thing. She hasn't declared her candidacy yet, but she filed paperwork, as far as I know. And oh yeah, and so yeah, it's a very strange situation. Independents, as you might know, generally tend not to win, and they tend, if anything, to be spoilers. And that's certainly a concern here. I don't know. I don't really know what her plan is, but anyways, she's running against Ruben Gallagher. I believe he is basically going to be the nominee. He's got the endorsements for one. He's got the political power for it, and he stands a decent chance, I think. And of course, you have Kari Lake trying to be the nominee for the Republicans again. If you know anything about Kari Lake, she's like part of the far right Republican Trump group, and she's very much a believer that the elections that she has lost and that Trump has lost were stolen, and a bunch of other uh, BS. It's all unsubstantiated by any facts or evidence. And candidates that fit that profile generally tend to lose their elections. I mean, Trump himself lost 2020. Kari Lake lost the Senate, no, the governor's race last year. What was it, 2022? She lost the governor's race. You had people all across the country. There's a guy in Georgia running, Scott Walker, not Scott Walker. Forget his name. He used to be a football player, and he lost against. Wow, I'm forgetting names. Raphael Warnock beat the other guy. I forget his name, but anyways, he was another. The Republican candidate was another person who believed in a lot of these basically conspiracy theories, or claimed. And point being is that if that's your if that's your shtick, then you're probably not going to win. That tends to be how things went in 2022, and yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable to suspect that that will be the same moving forward. So if Kari Lake is a nominee, which it's very possible she'll be the nominee, then at that point, it's still hard to say where this goes, because at this point, Ruben Gallego, I don't know how you pronounce it exactly, but he's generally speaking going to have a decent amount of Democratic support. And Kyrsten Sinema has been kind of hemorrhaging Democratic support, especially since some of her, I guess you could say, issues with some of Biden's policies. And she's voted against a number of things that I think are actually fairly popular amongst the electorate. one of them being the minimum wage thing, and so a three-way race between all these people is very difficult. It's very difficult to predict. A lot of polls say that Ruben Gallego can still beat Kerry Lake and Kristen Sinema, but I don't know. I mean, that's assuming a lot of, say, let's say Republican moderates, let's say they go to Kristen Sinema, and average Democrats go with Gallego, and maybe this is a difficult one to predict. I look at the polls and I say, yeah, Gallego's probably going to win, but I don't know. This is another one of those cases where anything can change. Kristen Sinema can decide not to run for re-election, in which case I'd say Ruben's probably going to win because Carrie Lake is she loses her elections. So unless things go really horribly with Ruben, and maybe he has some kind of scandal or some kind of issue, I'd say that yeah, I say he would have a fairly decent time beating Carrie Lake. So yeah, for this election, I would go with Ruben Gallego, probably, most likely. Florida. So this is another one where we don't know who the nominees will be. I mean, we know it's Rick Scott's going to be the senator. He's the incumbent senator. He'll be running for re-election. Primaries here don't take place until October 20th. So, that'll be interesting. So one weird thing about Florida, for one, I'm from Florida, and I've gotten to see how the politics of Florida have drastically changed over the last several years. For example, I remember election day 2018 when Rick Scott won by I want to say it was 20,000 votes. Let's see. Wow, 10,000 votes. If my math is correct, which it doesn't always, 10,000 votes. Now, that is insane. That is actually a lot closer than I thought it was. That's amazing. And so that is remarkable. When I'm going to click on this real quick because this was also kind of remarkable at the time. This is for the governor's election, 2018. DeSantis won with about 33,000 votes. Now, the reason why I don't think a lot of people say Rick Scott has he's vulnerable because he's had some issues internally within the Republican Party. He's also just I don't know if he's the most popular senator. He's got a lot of baggage, and it's he's probably in the same vein almost as Ted Cruz, but still not that far down. But here's why I think Rick Scott's going to win. So you see these numbers. DeSantis wins with 4,076,000 people. Andrew Gillum just barely loses with 4,043,000 people. Jump to 2022, and suddenly Ron DeSantis wins by about 1.5 million. That is a substantial increase in votes, and I think I think it's very hard to see. It's hard for me to see any Florida Democrat winning. Florida Democrats typically don't do very well at all. I mean, they haven't had a close statewide election in since 2018, actually. Uh, during the governor election, what's his name? Charlie Crist. Yeah, Charlie Crist lost handedly to the point where I don't know if anyone will ever see him again. I think he's been sent to like a different planet or something. Same with the Senate race. Marco Rubio was running for election. I forget her name, but I believe she was a police chief from Orlando. Ran against him, lost almost as badly. Not as badly, but it's still a loss by like over 1 million votes. So closing that gap would take a whole lot of work, and I don't know of anyone that can pull that off. And when I look at the candidates that have declared themselves or filed paperwork, nobody fits that bill. Yeah, as far as I can tell, of all these declared and filed candidates, the one person with a possibility of winning is Debbie Powell. I never know how to pronounce that name. And she lost her most recent election in 2021 or 2020, I guess. She got the position or got the seat during the blue wave year of 2018 and then lost it in the next election cycle. I don't know that she necessarily has a winning plan. I guess it's just somebody's got to run, but I don't understand it. I don't think she'll be able to win. Is my point. The only person that I think, I mean, part of the issue is you need people around the state to know who you are. I mean, having that kind of having that kind of public I don't even know what the right word is. Being known around the state helps to win, obviously. If you're only known and she's from the Miami area, I don't remember exactly where, but that's not nothing. That would there's a lot of people there. That could help, but I don't know. It seems insurmountable at this point. I don't know that anyone could really. I still don't know fully about how red Florida is. It could just be that 2022 saw some really bad candidates. Maybe that's all it is. The one person that I think is worth looking at for this election is Andrew Warren. He was a Hillsborough County state attorney, and he was suspended after refusing to abide by some of the state's abortion laws. And he recently announced he would not seek re-election to that position. So there's a good chance he'll try to run for Senate, for the Senate seat. And you know, I don't know if he'll have any better of a shot than Debbie, but those two people are probably your best odds. And even then, I think Rick Scott's still going to win quite a bit. I mean, he won. I don't think he's ever lost an election. I mean, he two elections for governor, one for Senate. Yeah, I'm going to say Rick Scott wins this one. United States Senate election in Michigan. The lady Debbie Stabenow is retiring, and yeah, it's the first open seat in a long time, I guess. It looks so, as far as I can tell, the person likely to get the nomination is this Alyssa Slotkin. Alyssa, I think that's what it is. She seems to be best positioned to get the nomination, and so I'm gonna run with that assumption. That could change. The primary is in August, so we won't know that for a while. But over time, some of these people will drop out. Um, yeah, Hill Harper is interesting seeing him on here. He was on CSI New York. If you ever watched that, he was a doctor of some sorts. Yeah, Sheldon Hawks. I don't remember exactly. I haven't seen that show in a long time, but um, so yeah, for Republicans, an interesting thing about the Republican Party of Michigan is that it's basically collapsed. They had a really horrible year in 2022. That was the year where Tudor Dixon ran for governor, lost horribly. There was, I forget who was, somebody was running for Senate, and they also lost horribly, but they're not even on this list. But anyways, they're still very much in disarray, and so it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to put forward a decent candidate in time. Um, I mean, I really don't know who's going to get the nomination on the Republican side because you still have that split of Trump leaning Republicans and then so-called moderate Republicans, and so whichever group has the largest population in the state is essentially going to be who chooses the nominee. And I really don't know who the nominee will be. It's just too early to tell. But I mean, you have some people here that Mike Rogers. He's probably I could guess and say he's probably one of the more moderate since he's been there a little bit longer. But who knows? Any one of these people could end up being it. Um, Either way, I agree with the predictions from a lot of these places. Michigan has had Democratic senators for decades at this point. I don't see that changing, especially now when the Republican Party of Michigan is at its weakest. So I would say, as of today, um, assuming that Elissa Slotkin is the nominee, I believe she will be Michigan's next U.S. senator. Moving on to Missouri, this is probably only going to take a second. Now, Missouri Republican Josh Hawley is running for re-election. I don't know why I haven't opened this page. Missouri is a very, very red state, and I have a hard time. Josh Hawley might not be the most popular senator. You might remember him as the guy running away from the mob on January 6th, the same people that he cheered on um, earlier in the day. But anyways, yeah, I don't I can't imagine there's going to be a very strong Democratic nominee. Looks like the best shot is a one-time candidate for the Senate, or actually state senator. On yeah, I don't know where her seat's at. She might. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Sometimes if you get somebody that was in like state politics, local politics, they might have a better chance. But that tends to be if you have somebody like a former attorney general running or a former something of that like. But I guess we'll see there. Either way, it's going to be a very uphill battle, as you can see here. 6 years ago, Josh Hawley beat Claire McCaskill just barely, but still, it was 140,000 votes. And is it possible to make that up? Sure, but you would need a decent candidate, a stronger candidate, I guess. Somebody not like Claire McCaskill, I guess. Somebody it's kind of an issue that you see with a lot of the states, like maybe with Florida, if you had a strong candidate, maybe they could close the gap some. Maybe even West Virginia, maybe you could close the gap with a good candidate, but it's finding those are very difficult, especially in states like Missouri or Florida, where I think even at the state level, all the positions are Republican. Which you could check that by looking here. Yeah, governors Republican, the lieutenant governors Republican. They don't seem to have anything else, but odds are it's Republican. So it's easier for them actually to turn out new potential candidates because they've got statewide recognition and such. Which brings us to Montana, another red state. Which this one honestly is a difficult one to predict. This might actually be the of all the states that are having Senate election. This is probably the most difficult. It's a red state. I don't know exactly how much Trump won the state by, but it was decent. The current governor is Republican. He beat former senator. How was his name? The guy ran for office in 2020 for the Democrats and lost. Yeah, I don't remember. I guess if I go here and I look, actually, I'll go back. Yeah, let's go there. Let's see. Election 2020, gubernatorial. Oh, that is not who I thought it was. Hmm. Yeah, Steve Bullock. That's what I was thinking of. So Steve Bullock lost. No, he won. Yeah, brain farts. Okay, I'm gonna look at his name because I'm pretty sure he ran for something else in 2020. Oh, he ran for president, then he ran for Senate. Ran for Senate against Steve Daines and lost by about 50,000 votes. So it's not impossible for Jon Tester to beat that number. Um, just won't be easy. We could say he won in 2018, by about 20. Yeah, this is going to be a tough one for him. It's just the state is just not nearly as blue as it used to be, and if there is I think he's the weakest, not the weakest, but he's got the hardest battle out of all the Democrats running for re-election, just because of the Republican tilt. It seems like this Brad Johnson guy will probably end up being. Here we go, Montana Secretary of State. So basically, you know, he's got that statewide recognition, although he hasn't been. Um, I guess he really hasn't been in state politics on that level in a little over a decade. It'd be really interesting if this guy ran again. He ran against Tester in 2018 and lost, but that could be an interesting rematch. Either way, very difficult for John Tester, but polls I think actually have him ahead, if I remember correctly. I'll toss up. Yeah, I guess for this case it might depend on who the Republican nominee eventually is. Maybe if they're a little too right wing, maybe that'll work to John Tester's advantage because he tends to be a bit more center left, I guess. So if I had to pick one, I'd say John Tester, but that's just the hopeful part of me, I guess. So moving on to Nevada, I won't spend much time here either. Some people suggest that Nevada is a toss-up state, which I'm going to assume is what it says here. Nope, they say okay. Well, some of the people that I've seen or listened to, they say it's toss-up, could go either way, and that's partly because Nevada in 2022, the governor, forget the name of the lady who won, but she no, she lost actually. The lady who lost, the Republican won just barely, but there's another lady running for Senate, a U.S. Senate seat. I think it was for re-election, and she just barely won. But I think she also wasn't very popular. But if you look at Jackie Rosen, I think her polling, the polling on her is better. That's the right word for that. Her approval ratings are better. So I think that'll help her. I think also just yeah, I think she'll be in a safe spot. I think she'll win re-election. I also don't believe that there are any prominent Republicans just yet who can actually challenge her. So yeah, I'd say she's so far. I think she'll have a safe re-election. Moving on to New Jersey. I only put this on here because the incumbent Bob Menendez is going through a number of federal corruption cases right now, and for some reason he has decided not to resign and wants to seek re-election. This guy is bogged down in he's had corruption lobbed at him for over a decade, probably almost 2 decades at least. And I suspect that anything could happen. He could lose his primary election for one. I want to say, was it Andy Kim? Yeah, I think I want to say he might be one of the top people. I don't remember seeing her name on here before, but yeah, I can see. I don't know actually. It depends on how much the corruption charges are going to hurt him in the primaries. Either way, a Democrat's going to win this seat most likely. I have a hard time seeing, even if he gets the nomination, I have a hard time seeing him lose. Although it's possible. I mean, if a Democrat can win in Alabama, then a Republican can certainly win in New Jersey. So that's a case we'll have to see. For now, I'm going to say that whoever the Democrat is, I think they'll win. And on to New Mexico, another one that I don't think is going to be an issue. I don't. Yeah, Martin. This is interesting. Yeah, New Mexico, I think, has always been pretty well. It's generally lately for the last several years been safe for Democrats. I don't know why I actually clicked on this one. I will say though, I don't remember ever hearing this guy's name before. Incumbent U.S. Senator Martin Heinrich. Interesting, but yeah, one with 54% of the vote in 2018, running for a third term. That percentage might go down a little bit just because 2018 was a really blue year, but I suspect that 2024 overall is going to be more purple leaning blue, if that makes any sense. Not quite a blue wave, but not quite a red wind, if that makes any sense. Just basically this standard. Yeah, I don't. There's, yeah, I don't suspect he'll lose this one. Pennsylvania, it's another one. Pennsylvania's moved quite a bit more Democrat over the last couple of years. Well, I mean, the guy that ran for governor in 2022, forget his name because I forget everyone's name. He won pretty well. Josh Shapiro, yeah, he had a pretty good win. Same with the guy that ran for Senate. Uh, see, I've been seeing his name on the news a lot lately, John Fetterman, because yeah. So I suspect that incumbent Bob Casey Jr. will have no issues winning re-election. So I would say Bob Casey Jr. wins re-election. Ohio, there's another one. This is another one like Montana where you have a red state but a blue survivor in the middle of it. Sherrod Brown's a unique one. He's very pro-union, pro-worker, and I think that is part of why he's still winning in Ohio because he connects with the blue collar types that for at least in 2016 felt abandoned by Democrats. And I think because he is still in their corner, because they still see him as as a knight in shining armor, so to speak, to Washington, I think he'll win re-election. I don't know how close it'll be, but I do think he'll be okay because he does have that blue collar support, and that's in these Rust Belt states, it's very important. Texas, Ted Cruz back yet again. I do think he'll probably win. Yeah, I, I don't remember seeing I had Colin Allred a football player or something like that, and also a congressman. The name recognition I think would work out for him if his football career was based in Texas. But even if it isn't, it might help him. Yeah, it's hard to say. When it comes to like celebrity candidates, I mean, I guess he's actually also a sitting congressman, so that's not nothing. But so yeah, I don't know. This is a situation where I suspect that Ted Cruz will still win. I actually thought that maybe Julian Castro might run. He's somebody that I think might have had a decent chance. He's got no, he's got some quite a bit of name recognition, I feel like, but maybe next time. Yeah, I mean he's got a number of endorsements and Roland Gutierrez, state senator. Yeah, I remember seeing him way back when. I think he was one of the initial people to announce a run. Let's see. Texas is a state that I think someday we'll have Democratic senators and more Democratic representation, but we're not quite there yet. It's it's a slow moving thing, but each passing year it seems to turn more and more blue. But maybe this will be the year. Yeah, Ted Cruz might be terrible enough for that to happen, but I'll have to wait and see. I guess it really depends on who the nominee will be. As you can see here, the primary election is March 5th, so we'll know by then who the Democrat will be, and then we can actually make a better determination at that point. Because I really don't know who's gonna win the nomination. I'd probably bet with Allred, but we'll see. Virginia Senate election, another one where I don't know why I even have this up here. Tim Kaine has been a senator since 2013. Um, yeah, I don't see him losing unless I mean I think the best case for Republicans might be to have their incumbent. That's interesting. Barry Goldwater. It would be interesting if to see if Glenn Youngkin ran. I don't know why he doesn't. The governors of Virginia can only serve one term. They can't serve. Well, they can only serve one term at a time. You can't do back-to-back terms. You can run for reelection, or you can run for governor again after one term, but you got to take that term off in between. And so why not? At this point, you got the name recognition. You won the state at least once. Why not run for Senate? I don't know if he would be able to beat Tim Kaine. It seems unlikely, but you never know. Um, yeah, and Virginia and Pennsylvania. They seem to go blue for a little bit, then red for a little bit, blue for a little bit. But I guess that's it's America. Uh, yeah, this one I'll spend about 10 seconds on it. Joe Manchin's not running. Jim Justice is running as a Republican nominee. He's going to win. There is no way that a Democrat will win this 30 plus percentage point Republican state. I don't even know how Joe Manchin did it back in 2018. But yeah, I don't see a Democrat winning in the state for a very, very long time. Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, right? She's running for reelection. Running against somebody. I think she's going to be safe. Wisconsin and Minnesota, that whole area, the state governments tend to, go back and forth between being red and blue. But when it comes to the Senate seat, it tends to be that the Democrats have the edge for some reason. So I do see Tammy Baldwin winning that election. No, governor's election. Here we go. This is an interesting one. Roy Cooper, governor of North Carolina, term limited, can't seek re-election. So this is going to be an open election to either party. Now, this North Carolina tends to be it trends red. You can see on here, uh, Donald Trump carried a state in 2020 by 1.3 percentage votes. Cooper won re-election by 4.5 election or percentage points. Um, it's easy to see this going either way. Now, the determining factor, as you might have heard me mention before, is who are the candidates? Currently, I don't think I guess Josh Stein. Oh yeah, I think he's expected nominee. Now here we go again. Attorney General, statewide recognition. It helps. So I think you'll see him as probably this nominee. Now, also with state recognition is likely to be Mark Robinson. He's the current lieutenant governor. It's really interesting. Governor, lieutenant governor, different parties. But this guy is very much of the Trump wing of culture war stuff, and he has a very large amount of uh, outlandish opinions, in my opinion. But despite that, I see him having a pretty good shot at getting the primary win for the Republican nomination. I mean, he already has a number of endorsements, including sitting senators in North Carolina, Ted Budd, and yeah, I think yeah, I think I think he's got the edge to win. Now, the issue is that while a candidate like him might perform well in a Republican primary, probably won't perform as well in a general election because like you can be as extreme as you want in the primaries, but during general elections, you need to try to appeal to a broader group of people. And I think a lot of Robinson's opinions are better at alienating groups of people, not appealing to them. And so I would say that Josh Stein in a matchup between Josh Stein and was it Mark Robinson, I think Josh Stein would win, which I know goes against all of this polling here, but and also I mean it's hard to say here because you got to remember he also Mark Robinson did win a lieutenant governor election alongside a Democrat. This is a strange state that is very very strange on who they vote for. So um these are two candidates that the states both elected. So we'll see, I guess. That's I guess what for the moment we might as well check out so Mark Robinson. We'll see what his last election was like. Then we'll look at Josh Stein. So they both had elections in 2020. I mean, you can see on the left here some of his opinions. Let's see, 2020. All right, so start with Josh Stein. He won by about 14,000 votes. So that's actually pretty remarkable. Uh, and that was in 2020. And we look at Mark Robinson. All right, well, this is actually something. He won by 177,000 votes. So he actually got more votes than Josh Stein. So that makes it even more difficult to say actually who's going to win. in a matchup between the two. Huh. But yeah, it's hard to say. If I remember correctly, though, so Roy Cooper, I want to say that there have been. I mean, North Carolina has been for a large part they've had Republican senators. It's tended to be a Republican state on presidential elections, but I want to say that oh yeah, well, you know what? I might have spoken too soon on Josh Stein. Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see who the eventual nominees are, but hmm, I don't know. Is North Carolina a state where somebody of the same vein as Carrie Lake and Dr. What's his name? The guy that ran in Pennsylvania against John Fetterman, Dr. Oz, and somebody who's kind of out there like that win a state like North Carolina? You know, I don't know. I mean, he has won a state. This is the tough. This is a really tough one. I guess final response. I'd have to say that given the existing evidence, hmm, let me do one last. I didn't realize just how close it was until now. For some strange reason, I'm going to go back to Mark Robinson and see. So a lot of these things on the side here. I mean, a lot of these have to be. Yeah, these are all after he won in 2020. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So this some of the stuff, just given that the whole Israeli conflict has been very much of the. It's been a really big. It's been a growing foreign policy issue in America. I'll put it that way. This might actually hurt him, come to think of it. It's also interesting. I, the Rothschilds, you know, hmm. I'm gonna, this is gonna be my most difficult bet of this night, I think, of this video. It's night where I'm at right now, but I'm gonna guess Mark Robinson loses if he's a nominee. I think his opinions are just too far out there. And I think that all of these opinions are going to be broadcast all across the state in the months leading up to the general election. And I think that could hurt him quite a bit. Yeah, this guy has got some interesting thoughts. Like, so it's time for us to get back and start reading some of these quotes. And that's in reference to Adolf Hitler, Mao Zedong, Joseph Stalin, Pol Pot, Fidel Castro. Yeah, that's yeah, okay. I feel a little bit better about him losing. Okay. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna make it. Virginia, we're almost done. Just about. Glenn Youngkin ineligible to run for election because he can't serve consecutive terms. So Virginia does this thing where they tend to go from Republican to Democrat over and over again. Sometimes look at two Democratic terms one after another. That happened before with Ralph Northam and Terry McAuliffe, but he ran in 2019, I guess, and lost pretty badly. Probably a good thing he declined to run for election again. Same with Ralph Northam. He had a quite a history of stuff. You can look into that if you want to. I want to say the leading contender is Abigail Spanberger, and that's not to say that LeVar Stoney can't win. It's to say that that seems to be the favorite to win, I guess. This is another situation where we'll have to wait until well, primary elections, whenever they are. On the Republican side, it looks like oh yeah. I don't know who the favorite is to run for the Republican side. My guess is possibly this Jason guy, possibly this lady, Winsome Winsome Sears. That's an interesting name. Yeah, I mean, anyone, it seems like if you have a statewide office, you got a better chance. So I guess we'll wait and see. Looks like Sears is as of February last year, so almost a year ago, she was leading the polls. However, of course, 35% undecided. So we'll have to wait to see on that. Either way, Virginia recently had statewide elections that trended blue. However, Virginia is a strange state. This is also in 2025. I don't even know why this is on here. Pretty sure, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, just gonna go ahead and disregard the Virginia elections because that's a year off. Either way, 2020, yeah, that's being that it's 2025, you have like the first one of the first big chances to kind of counter whoever the incumbent president is. We don't even know who the incumbent president will be at that point. So yeah, they're not going to make a decision on that. And then I looked this up because this is just a guess as to which party broadly will retain control or gain control of the House. I'm just going to guess that just given some of the redistricting that's happened, and given that I think there's a good chance that Democrats can regain control ever so slightly. Okay, I don't think it'll be a knockout one. I think it'll be something similar to um, how issues are for the Republicans right now. It'll be very close odds, likely. Also, yeah, it's just the Republican Party in the House just seems too much in disarray. And also there's a budget passed recently that some of the far right Republicans are not happy about. They might end up trying to get rid of Mike Johnson because of that. So like there's a lot going on there. And then one other thing. This is kind of stupid, but I just want to pull this up because I feel like Mike Johnson, this guy right here, he looks like a character from a video game called I want to say it's Morrowind. This is just like I'm pretty much done with the prediction. So if you want to jump out of here, I don't blame you. But I'm going to look up this guy because I feel like this guy looks. Is this the guy? I can't remember. Hey, who would have thought that this political video would turn into whatever the hell I'm doing now? Yeah, well, would have thought it'd be hard to find a picture. Is this the guy? Yeah, there. I think that's it. Yeah. So, all right. I don't know if this is gonna even pull up or show up on the final video, but don't they kind of look similar? Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know why. I feel like they're related somehow, even though they're in different universes. There's something similar there. I wonder, was it? Let me check one other thing. Maybe it was a blip. I already looked this up once before because I thought that there was an uncanny similarity, and I'm gonna guess it was the Morrowind game. Yeah, probably. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, close enough. Yeah, that basically they kind of look the same. They have that weird just face. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I guess that's about it for that. Yeah, I think 2024 is going to be a mess of an election cycle, but uh, what can you do other than vote? I guess. Um, yeah, like I said, I'm gonna revisit this topic every so often and try to update my previous predictions and then like on the day of or the day following the election, I'm you know 10, 11 months from now, I'm gonna make another video to see just how wrong I was. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you thought I was wrong and that I'm completely wrong in everything, let me know. And if there's anything I missed, feel free to correct me. I am human which means I am fallible, which means I can mess up, and I sure mess up often. So, um, yeah, yeah, like I said, if you have any, if I did anything, if I did mess up anything, let me know. And on that note, I'm just gonna go ahead and sign off, and I'll see you in the future. I've got other videos I want to make. I got some like cultural videos I want to make, but they're just such a pain to make sometimes. There's if you ever look into the broad category of culture wars, it's vast. There's just so much crap, and it's all horrible and depressing. But I just yeah, culture wars have become such a pivotal part of so many people's policies and campaign strategies. It's just I've been wanting to do a video on those for a long time. So, anyways, yeah, I'll see you next time. And yeah, remember to vote on election day and for the primaries. Make your voice be heard because that's like the one thing that you can always count on is voting. Yeah, that's my TED talk.